Welcome back to The Takeout. A new documentary series centered on the United States War for Independence is premiering on PBS next month. Here's a preview.
We think about independence movements of the 20th century. You don't always recognize the fact that the United States actually started that.
The American Revolutionary Movement served as a model for freedom from oppression.
America is predicated on an idea that tells us who we are, where we came from, and what our forebears were willing to die for.
Co-directors of the American Revolution, Ken Burns and Sarah Botstein, join me now. Great to see you both. Thank you for being here on what I know has been an extensive promotional tour, but for a real important piece of work.
Yeah, we think so. I don't think I'm going to work on a more important film than this. We've got other things that we hope are as important, but I think particularly now in the divisions that we experience, the idea of going back and collecting a not superficial or sentimental view of our founding provides us with a kind of energy that allows us to understand where we are, because we know where we came from. And our revolution is incredibly complicated. A revolution superimposed on a bloody, bloody civil war, superimposed on a world war. And I think people don't really appreciate. You think it's men in Philadelphia thinking great thoughts, and it is. And those are the biggest thoughts there are. But when you find out the teenagers that are fighting it, the kids that involve, the women, Native peoples, free and enslaved Black Americans, all the foreign powers that are vying for the prize of North America, this is a big epic saga that I think we haven't really been taught about it. And Sarah and I have spent the last nearly 10 years diving deep into the story of it to bring out something that I think will take familiar people, so-called familiar people like Washington, and make them dimensional and human, and then introduce you to dozens of other people you've never heard of.
And this is a 12-hour production spread out over several nights. One of the things, as a former newspaper reporter who's come to appreciate the visual medium much more, that I know you guys struggled with at the beginning, but turned into such incredible work, is there was, of course, no video of the American Revolution. How do you come up with 12 hours of something visually compelling? And what kind of research went into doing that?
Yeah, I mean, research is at the heart of what we do and how we make these films. And I think when we started, we both gulped and thought, oh my gosh, we're not going to be able to rely on the photographic record, on newsreels and news reports. But actually, it turned into both a creative opportunity, and it made us use our imaginations in new and different ways. And we were able to really dig deep on what exists from the archive, whether it's maps or pamphlets, letters, diaries, church logs, military roles and things like that, but then also to shoot live cinematography of this incredible country and this incredible landscape and imagine where people lived, where they walked, where they saw the war happen or moved, and bring people to life in new and different ways. So it started out as something that we were a little bit frightened of, and then we really leaned into it, and we love using paintings, oil paintings, and the way that we've imagined the war for the last 250 years, as well as live cinematography and documents from the time.
I've never been a fan of reenactments, and this time we suddenly realized we just had to get over it. And so we did it a little bit differently. Rather than say, please reenact the Battle of Bunker Hill, we spent years embedded with reenactment groups, they're so profoundly curious about what actually took place. And I'm absolutely confident that their underwear is right, as well as the outer uniforms. And they were so kind to us to let us in. And so what we did, rather than say, do this for us, we collected over the years a whole critical mass of footage that we could then blend in with what Sarah's talking about: the maps, the paintings, the drawings, the documents, as well as the first-person commentary of the people who lived through it. And we have had the biggest cast list that's ever been assembled for any film or television show ever, in terms of the wattage of star power and of acting chops that read off camera the voices of the people that I think help bring to life the footage and the archival material that we have.
And a really signature part of your documentaries through the years. I guess this could go in so many different directions, but what will perhaps be most surprising to a viewer, whether you're a casual student of the American Revolution or someone more deeply immersed in it?
If it's my experience is any indication, everything is going to be new. Like, you always think you know something, and I've been involved in making history films for a long time. I've passed through the revolution and other things. It's basically, rather than telling you what you should know, we're sharing with you our process of discovery. So at every single level, take something that may seem obvious to people. Without George Washington, we don't have a country. But can I introduce you to a 10-year-old girl who's a refugee for most of the war, 10 years old when the war began in 1775, and dozens of people in between that, Irish and German and English and Welsh and Scottish, as well as the people on the ground, loyalists, a big important part. And because we sort of like to say that we're umpires calling balls and strikes, we don't make somebody wrong because they made a decision to defend their sovereign and the British constitutional monarchy that looked like the safest bet in the world, and not for this radical idea of these upstarts, these rebels, which is what the British always calls it. So I think that every day was a learning curve.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I think the only thing I would add to that is that it's such a surprising story. It's a great underdog story, and it's really inspiring, and you feel extremely patriotic while you're watching it, and so surprised that we were able to do what we were able to do ultimately, both here and with the help of the French and where we sat on the global stage. It's really, I think it's a great moment to be inspired about and really proud of what we did.
This current period of U.S. history that we're in might make this documentary either timely or helpful. Well,
I think we talk a lot right now about how we're divided, how this is a deeply divided time in our country's history and how polarized we are. We were really deeply divided in the American Revolution, maybe more so than we are today. And actually, in thinking about the last 250 years, each time we've come together as a country to celebrate July 4th, 1776, we've been divided. We've been debating and arguing about what parts of our history to celebrate, the dynamics of government, states' rights versus the federal government, all the things that we constantly talk about in our culture. So I think America has a long tradition of public debate, of engaged citizenship, of divisions of how our government should be, and that started at our founding.
You recently said that I just really hope the film has the ability to speak to the people who are concerned about the direction of the country, whoever that might be.
Yeah, I think, I've been traveling the country, Sarah and I have been traveling the country, talking to groups everywhere, and we haven't changed what we're saying. We don't have a different spiel for, Joe Rogan as we might for the editorial board of the New York Times. And what we're trying to say is this is our origin story. Everyone I know in the country can find a portal, an entrance to this story, and feel, as Sarah's saying, patriotic and proud about it. It isn't just, Lexington and Concord and Bunker Hill, and then, Washington crosses the Delaware, and then Yorktown surrender. There are 40 or 50 battles we're going to introduce you to, but we're also going to understand what's happening at home, what the role of women has been on the battlefield and attending things, children, and the complicated dynamics of the Native Americans that are part of our country, that are coexisting with our country, and those nations on the western border who are big players on the world stage, as important in diplomacy and trade as, say, France or Prussia is. And so if you tell a complex story, I think it tends to flatten out or maybe just release all of the binaries that we have at red state, blue state, whatever it is that divide us. And then you begin to sense that we're not that far apart. We just have different takes on it. And if you can come together over something in which we can assure you is fact-based, there's so many outlets, people get so much information from places in which there are no fact checkers. All we do for the last year and a half is fact check and make sure that it's right. And I think then people can feel a kind of comfort and come into this living room and sit around this table and participate in their own birthright, which is the big question: what happened at our founding? And what it is, those big questions, what you're willing to sacrifice your life for.
Well, the American Revolution comes out soon on PBS, right? Over 6 nights, right?
November 16th, Sunday, 16th. And it'll be immediately available for free to stream, and there's a companion book, and they are also these things, you've probably not heard of them, called DVDs and Blu-rays that will also be around. Because
good stocking stuffers.
we may be the last people who actually enjoy people wanting to have a hard copy of the stories that we're telling.
Excellent. Well, I look forward to watching the rest of it. I started it. It's really compelling so far. Ken Burns, Sarah Botstein, thank you so much for being here.